Good morning. Welcome to Tweak the Week. This is your weekly show where we decide what we want to talk to you about because that is what we understand. We are trying to look for new items and new stories which make us turn our heads, and we find it very interesting and sometimes a tad funny. So today we are going ahead and to discuss Temba Bavuma, who is the first black captain for white ball cricket. How does
in
that
South
sound?
Africa.
Wherever. So, I mean, that sound itself is weird, right? And first black for a white ball game, cricket.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
I
in
think,
South Africa.
I think, Bala,
Yeah, I mean,
welcome.
good morning, Raj. Temba
Welcome.
Bavuma sounds like a Tyagaraja Kirtana.
Yeah,
That's
so
a name.
we will shift slightly eastward from Temba Bavuma's land and reach Chennai and Tamil Nadu. And there also we are going to talk about something equally funny. We are talking about somebody who is quitting politics. We never knew she was in politics, man. Over to you, Bala.
Yeah, we'll talk about, I mean, since you are talking about Tamil Nadu, we'll talk about lightly Temba. Temba means energetic in Tamil. Anyway, we are talking about VK Sasikala, who quit politics without being in politics, in a sense, as Raj put it, as Raj rightly put it, because we have had two people who have quit politics without actually being in politics.
Yeah.
One is, of course, Sasikala, and another was famously Rajnikant, who never got to enter politics.
But then Rajnikant can do that. We said Rajnikant is Rajni. Rajni, there is nothing Rajni can't do. I mean,
Yeah,
no pun
exactly.
intended.
Yeah.
So he's only one. So when Google uses Rajnikant for search, so anything can happen. So with Rajnikant, no problems. Rajnikant can quit things without joining, start things, stop things without starting. He can do everything. Sasikala, I don't know, man.
Yeah, Sasikala, it was a bit of a surprise when it actually came. But long-standing watchers of Tamil Nadu politics weren't surprised in the sense they saw it coming because there were certain people who were working behind the scenes to get Sasikala out of the way so that it is easy for ADMK BJP alliance. Just to put it in a nutshell, because when Sasikala came out of prison, she came to Chennai on a cavalcade with a lot of fanfare. So at that time, it looked like she was she wanted to make a political statement. She wanted to send out strong message to both EPS and OPS, who, especially OPS, who was at one point pretty close to Sasikala, kind of a protege kind of person for Sasikala. But now, due to political turmoil, he is now in the other side of the fence as far as within the ADMK is concerned. So there was some kind of a problem for ADMK if Sasikala were to be away from this faction. So the message must have gone to Sasikala. I mean, the general belief in Tamil Nadu is there were a couple of people from her own family who made Sasikala to take this decision, and another group is of the opinion that BJP, especially particularly a certain section which is pretty close to RSS, who worked behind the scenes to get Sasikala out of the way so that it makes it easy for ADMK to forge ahead within Tamil Nadu. Because if it is going to split the votes within the ADMK, it is going to make it easy for the DMK, which they didn't want. It makes a lot of political sense.
Let me ask you a question, Bala. If the idea was to get her out of the way, she was out of the way, no? She was in Bangalore.
She was in Bangalore, but after she was, I mean, you're right, but after she was released from jail, she came out with, I mean, at least on the face of it, at least on paper, it looked like she had some political ambitions. I mean, she had been, when she went away, she had appointed her nephew TTV Dinagaran as the general secretary, who was actually removed by OPS and EPS, and Dinagaran floated his own outfit called AMMK, Amma Makkal Munetra Kazhagam. So that's what it happened. So there was a split within AMK, though. Let's also be very honest. AMK didn't have any strong political base, and in a sense, Sasikala also. I mean, as we said, you brought it out. Sasikala is not a political figure. She was just a shadow of Jayalalitha. She owed her power by being in the background. She did a lot of dirty tricks.
So
but from behind.
In a way, she was not even a morning or evening shadow. She was the noon shadow.
Exactly.
Basically makes her very small.
Very small, and you wouldn't have spotted her, but everybody within the ADMK knew it. See, some of the people, the MLAs who are, MLAs in the outgoing assembly, they voted to Shashikala because they got their party ticket to contest solely due to Shashikala's. I mean, since they curried favor with Shashikala.
So
So
is it
in
a
that
case
sense,
of,
in that sense, she was powerful, but she didn't have a political base on her own. Or her mass support was nothing.
Yeah, so in Tamil Nadu, this is not new because I mean, when MGR died, you suddenly had Janaki Ramachandran coming out of the closet and becoming a chief minister for the briefest of whiles. Jayalalitha probably had the political nous to sort of make the grade. Shashikala, from what I hear you saying, I mean, obviously doesn't have that political chutzpah to get in there.
You hit it right because she doesn't have the skills, she doesn't have the acumen, the political smarts.
Yes.
So, and she has not built any mass support for herself, and she has never contested any elections. When Jayalalitha, I mean, she was not thrown totally out of nowhere. So Jayalalitha was a Rajya Sabha MP, and she had the ability to speak, and she had leadership qualities, which was kind of vindicated later in the later days. Shashikala doesn't have that.
Yeah, so in a way, probably it worked for both teams, because Shashikala probably wouldn't have actually made. Even if she had entered politics, she would have exited not now, maybe sometime later. So it was better. A sort of a quid pro quo probably was arrived at.
And it was pretty clear her arms were twisted from behind. In a manner of speaking.
So yeah, so Chinnamma is history now. Oh, Chinnamma,
I would say, because if ADMK doesn't perform well.
Okay.
I mean, it is. I mean, she can still come back. I mean, at least when I say she, I am obviously meaning the TTV Dinagaran also.
Okay.
He nurses a lot of political ambitions.
Okay.
In terms of politics, he is pretty young. In terms of politics.
Yeah, so we will leave it at that. Maybe we'll slip southward a little bit.
Yeah, because you're talking about young politicians. We have to talk about an 89-year-old
young politician. Yeah,
young politician.
Very young. He's still young, and he's breaking all the rules, especially of the party that he's attempting to
bring up.
In the southern state of Kerala. Yeah, we are talking about Kerala, and we are talking about Metro Man, which is very weird because I mean, we have Missile Man, Metro Man, and so many other men. I mean, it looks as if they are the only ones who actually did everything for that particular project. That is not true. Exactly. So I think these labels are what is actually making even E. Sridharan, respected figure in Indian technocracy, to believe that he has a political future and he can actually change Kerala's political firmament, which as we all know is probably the only state where there is a two-party regime. There has been a two-party regime from the time I can remember, at least.
Yeah, in a sense, that's a kind of a reflection in Tamil Nadu also, because it's also a two-party regime.
Yes,
it's between ADMK and DMK. Similarly, it is between UDF and LDF in Kerala. And you brought up, I mean, before we get into the politics of it, you pointed about the facile labeling. That's a very good point. That needs to go out, because Missile Man, Metro Man, they are very lazy labeling. That, I mean, let's be very honest about it. It stems from lazy labeling from media people like us, Raj.
Agreed. So you're very right. You're very right. I mean, for every label that we create, there is a lot of good people who actually sort of go under the radar.
Exactly.
So I think that is. I mean, I think I just said it randomly, but when you brought this up, I think you're very right. So
because we have this in Tamil Nadu, we have this Annadurai, Annadurai as being the man behind the Chandrayaan mission. When I say Annadurai, ISRO Annadurai, not that old politician.
Yeah, so which is not true. So I mean, coming back to this thing, I mean, I find it a little bit of a joke, because the sequence of events was itself quite funny for me, at least, where I found that one fine morning our man said that he thinks only BJP can make a change, which is very weird, because through his entire life as a Metro Man, he was actually reporting to other governments.
Exactly.
I mean, BJP was never in the firmament. The only BJP guy who was in Delhi that time was Sahib Singh Verma. I remember he was the chief minister
of Delhi.
Of Delhi. But then Sahib Singh Verma started it. But then 15 years he was reporting to a Congress chief minister in Delhi. And Konkan Railway was again not part of this. Konkan Railway was part of Deva Gowda's regime. So I don't know what the man is talking about. He's 89, which is fine, and he's a very religious person, and he's considered to be a thorough professional. All of that is fine. So one fine morning he says, I mean, BJP can redeem Kerala. Next day he says, I as a chief minister can redeem Kerala. A third day, the BJP says, no, you are not the chief minister candidate. So you are not, we are not considering you for that. So what the hell is happening here?
Yeah, but Raj, I want to ask you a larger question. Today morning I was reading in the papers that he might be the front runner, not exactly the chief ministerial candidate. I mean, that is generally a tall talk for BJP to think of the chief ministerial candidates, knowing its presence, the kind of presence that it has in Kerala. But still, is BJP right to project somebody like E. Sridharan as one of its talismanic leaders in the BJP, when considering the fact that I'm not being ageist here, but 89-year-old.
So forget that, Bala. Let me ask you a question. If that is the case, what should LK Advani and MM Joshi be thinking right now?
Exactly.
Margdarshak Mandal. He should be part of the Margdarshak Mandal, no? Modi's Margdarshak Mandal, right?
Exactly.
But 89, and that is one part, like you said, he is probably, see, what is BJP doing? BJP doesn't have too many strong candidates there in Kerala, as it is today. So they believe that he could be a figure around which people will rally, especially the middle class. Middle class is the big voter base of BJP everywhere in India. So that middle class is what will rally, is what they are thinking. And Kerala has a metro service which was the fastest to fruition. In India, across India, in all metro services, I think Kerala's was the fastest, and it is doing pretty well for itself. So all of this put together is what I think they are basically hoping that they can actually glean some votes away. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I think that is what politics is all about. My problem is with Sridharan himself.
Okay.
Why does he think that he should be at the forefront at this time and think that he can be the saving grace? Because he should know very well, BJP is also a political party. They will also see tomorrow. You can't stop. Don't forget there is somebody, Suresh Gopi, sitting in the limelight. So I'm sure he'll do this. I'm sure there are others who will do similar actions. So if he thinks that he can get the support of the entire BJP in the state, BJP cadre in the state, and become a chief minister and ring in changes, I have only one thing to say: all the best, sir. This is one area you might, your life has been full of successes, but this is one area you might sort of end up not being successful.
That's not so. But I just want to ask you one question. Where how it is the scene? How does it look poised? Because you at one level you have LDF, which is embroiled in that gold smuggling controversy, and the statements that the person who was in the limelight, who has given it in the court, implicating none other than Pinarayi Vijayan. This is in today's morning paper. How is it going to play out, Raj?
I don't think, now whatever is happening all around that, whatever is happening, the cadres, the CPM cadres are actually very strong. So they are already talking about recreating history by actually coming back to power, which usually doesn't happen in Kerala. It's always UDF and LDF training places.
Exactly, so, alternating.
Yeah, so they are saying because Congress is actually having a problem. You might have seen that also. Leaders from Wayanad, which is my area, Congress leaders from Wayanad suddenly decided to show the middle finger to Congress, and Congress, I think, has rushed leaders to Wayanad to have conversations. I don't know. I'm not updated on what has happened in that. And Congress itself is facing a tough scenario there. So BJP, if at best can do anything, can probably glean away a few seats from Congress, which also would be surprising. You might think 1 or 2 seats might go, but I don't see BJP making a strong presence even in this election. See, the reason being, you don't have solid leaders. The leaders that BJP has chosen are local leaders. I don't think they have a pan-state presence. That is not what is happening in the BJP as yet.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Congress still has Umman Chandi on one side, and LDF still has Pinarayi Vijayan on the other side. So these two guys are there. So the reason why this man has been persuaded, or I would use the word tricked on purpose, into throwing his hat into the ring, is to see whether a figure can be brought up around whom people can rally, because we still have about a month for the election, month and change for the elections.
No,
so
it's May 6th, just a month exactly.
It's a month.
At the time of our recording, it's exactly.
Right. Today is what these days we don't keep time.
Yeah, exactly. But I would want to bring up one point about Rahul Gandhi's campaign in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. I should say it has been pretty impressive in Tamil Nadu because I have seen it in close quarters. And by the reports that I read from Kerala, he has been pretty spontaneous, natural, and his campaign has had some kind of an impact because he is not rigid or uptight as he was on previous occasions. He's pretty relaxed. He comes across as some kind of a earnest person. He had that earnest look, but sometimes these social media projections, they kind of skew the picture. So that is, he has now come out of it and looks, especially in Tamil Nadu, he has made certain amount of inroads in terms of appeal against a large cross section of voters. Something which, interestingly and most intriguingly, his slight improvement in his appeal as a leader has kind of upset its own ally, the DMK. That's what I hear, because Congress growing slightly is not to the liking of DMK because it feels it will come kind of
I have a
its
question
own
there.
numbers.
I have a question there.
Its
See,
numbers. It won't
all
numbers.
of that is right. All of that is right. My question is, he has made a lot of friends. How many of them will vote for him? That is the only question I have. He has made a lot
That
of friends. I
obviously-
mean, yeah.
Agreed.
He did
That was,
fantastic. That one hand push-ups and jumping into the sea. He did everything which actually makes you feel, oh, you know what? He is one of us. Fine. The question is,
will
if
they
you are one of
translate
us,
into votes?
yeah, if you are one of us, can you be our leader? That question is still not answered in my mind.
You're
I think
right. I mean, that question.
controlling the Congress and standing up and saying, you know what, I want to take charge of this and I'm going to sort of get the right people in the right positions. I think that is what Rahul Gandhi needs to do. I think till such time, it's all.
You're right about that, Raj, because your old school journalism of having covered a lot of politics and elections come through this, because you have seen a lot of quotes and they don't naturally translate into votes because you have
Correct.
covered some. So your point about that is right, but the kind of things that are happening between DMK and Congress, I mean, eventually they are going to clinch an alliance, but there are a lot of bad blood. This
So
happens
I will
before
feel-
every election.
yeah.
But just one thing, because one thing what Congress made one point last night was, though forget about the number of seats, the way we have been treated, the local TNCC leader, Tamil Nadu Congress leader, on stage, he kind of broke down. He was very emotional and he was very upset with the kind of way the DMK treated Congress.
So I'll put it this simply, Bala. These are all part of seat sharing. And I mean,
Exactly.
At the end of the day, how many seats am I getting? How many seats are you getting? And then you also need to take into account that ADMK, which might not have, see, like we said in the past also, that this is the first time the ADMK and DMK are facing off without their charismatic, iconic leaders. So,
Yes.
I mean, a new leadership has to emerge. Whether it is the EPS, OPS combined. See, if EPS nails it, EPS is the leader. If DMK nails it, Stalin is the unquestioned king.
True.
So for the next 10, 15 years or till whichever time they wants to be, that is clear. So in my mind, at least, it is all of this is in aid of a few more seats.
And of course, DMK is, is the bigger party in Tamil Nadu. So it needs to call the shots. And because it's right now, it's in a position of strength.
Yeah.
The electoral winds seem to be blowing in its favor. As of
now. We'll leave it there because I don't see. I don't see.
Yeah, because you're right about that. We'll leave it there, but we need to talk about another state apart from Kerala and Tamil Nadu. We need to go all the way up to the eastern side, Raj.
Yes, I know. The eastern side has actually had some wonderful. You see, I don't know. They call it politics, but as far as I'm concerned, this is nothing less than comic. So you had you had scenarios where a bunch of politicians from the ruling TMC joined
the
BJP. So you had some. Many of them were ex ministers. They were important people. I'll put it that way. People who were became less important in the TMC than they were at one point of time. So those guys they jumped, and among one of the guys who actually jumped, he even sort of created a lot of humor on YouTube and everywhere in the social media by actually doing squats, like we say, no, on the stage. Yeah, on the stage. So that was funny. And it's not as if these guys were big leaders. So Sushant Topal, the guy who actually did the Topkarnam, is from East Midnapur district,
Midnapur.
which is called Purbo Midnapur district now because of the name change. He said he was atoning for past sins. We don't know what he was referring to. Assuming that he was talking about the TMC, which is fine because the TMC had already atoned for it by throwing him out. So,
Yeah.
so we don't know really what happened there. But the best bit of news I found was that the BJP itself. So January was when the influx started happening from the TMC to the BJP. Around mid-February, we had the story coming. I mean, early to mid-February, we had this story which said that the BJP leadership was actually now worried about the exodus because they didn't want a lot of people coming into their party and taking up positions or taking up possible seats which would have otherwise gone to BJP stalwarts who were part of BJP for a long time.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting.
Essentially, this is what has happened in Bengal. Apart from, of course, everybody from the central government rushing into sort of hold rallies, and then now suddenly they're talking about whether the model code of conduct was there when some announcements were made. These are all standard stuff that happens.
Yeah, because you're right, because quite unlike Kerala and Tamil Nadu, BJP fancies its chances in West Bengal. So a lot of things that are not above board are said to be happening in West Bengal. But I'm very interested with the kind of campaign that Mamata is coming up. She's a feisty lady, but more than that, she is ready to take on the challenge of BJP, because when BJP leaders threw a challenge for her to get out of her stronghold in the eastern part of Kolkata, I mean, that's her standard constituency. When they challenged her to move to Nandigram or Singur, she has taken the challenge and filed, she has got a party nomination from Nandigram, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how if you're confident as a leader, these are the kind of things that others in other parties should know, because you must take on challenge, not run away from it. These are lessons for both Rahul, Stalin, and
everybody
others in ADMK.
Yeah, right. Not just that. I mean, why Tamil Nadu? I mean, every state, I think, many of the state leaders, they need to pick up a thread from this lady. I mean, the word you used was correct. Feisty is the word that comes to mind with this lady. I mean, you might agree, disagree with her, but I don't think you can question the feistiness of that lady. I mean, that is the beauty of it. See, the BJP actually has, I think, taken, if I'm not mistaken, about 18 to 20 MLAs and MP from Trinamool, and some 2 or 3 from CPM and Congress, and 1 or 2 from CPI. Now, the BJP is believing that this exodus is what will give them the edge. Now, the challenge, of course, is that after the communists were thrown out from Bengal and Congress was thrown out long back, Mamata Di has actually built up a cadre-based party there. So, how much of that these guys can actually pull away, wean away, is a question. And surprise of surprise, Mamata Banerjee and the entire TMC is only talking economics, fuel prices. I mean, everything that the Congress is not talking about at the central level, she is talking about at the state level. That is real politics as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So what will happen, we don't know. BJP, of course, like you, I think I totally agree with you that BJP. I mean, it is almost like like the iron is hot type thing, because you do have. I mean, it's not anti-incumbency as such. You do have that fatigue that comes with every political leader. I mean, she has been around for what, 10 years now? How many elections has she won? 2, 3, whatever. Two. So she is trying for her third term. So that fatigue is there. But don't rule out a surprise for BJP. That is, in the sense, what I'm saying is they might still be surprised by the turnout that TMC gets, unless of course they actually make some more inroads into the party.
You never know, because they made a lot of inroads in the general election.
Yeah.
Despite that, they still, in terms of number of seats, they fell below TMC.
Yes. So that is where the thing is. And general elections and this, they're slightly different, because smaller constituencies. So you have that difference. We just need to wait and see. But I found that entire scenario funny, because people moving in and doing weird things on just because there is a TV camera on. I found that a little funny. I think that is a
takeaway for you.
Takeaway for me from Bengal.
Just one last question, Raj, before we wind up, because it's slightly getting unwieldy and long. Of the 3 elections, I mean, there are 5 elections, but 3 main elections: West Bengal, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. Which does you intrigue you the most?
I mean, if you were to ask me about intriguing, I would say Bengal.
Okay.
So I would say Bengal is the most intriguing. I mean, I'm finding it very, very interesting because the BJP has unleashed all its heavy artillery. I mean, no pun on people's weights, heaviness. So I mean, when I say, I mean, all the key leaders are in Bengal, and here is this lady who's happily standing and countering all of them. So for me, that is the most intriguing of all the elections. And Tamil Nadu, of course, I'd be more interested in seeing when things get when we are closer to the election date, as to what happens to people like Kamala Hassan, and because I read
we need to discuss that. We'll
yeah,
get down to discussing that sometime later.
Sometime later.
But that you have been unfair to your home state. On that note, we can perhaps
yeah, yeah, I think so. I'm always unfair to my home state. You remember the Srishant comment, and even in cricket, and who was the not Srishant, who was the our
Sanju Samson.
Sanju Samson. And somebody said, I mean, why am I not bringing Sanju Samson in? I mean, I don't know. Whatever. So we'll catch up on that some other day. Thanks a lot, Bala. Thanks for being on the show. Like, share, and subscribe, and do comment and do share your views, and let us know what you would have like us to discuss if we consider it newsworthy enough, because in our highly underdeveloped mind, we'll definitely take it up. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Take care. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.